Okay, we'll start week 5, and today we'll start building the mobile apps, right? We did few labs when we focused more on the language itself, right? We've been playing with the playground for a while, and today we want to build a first mobile app, and this first mobile app will be a kind of a standard project, right? A calculator. Why? Because I want to show you how you can work with buttons, how to access or add the handlers to the buttons, right? Building the application, right? So we create a new Xcode project, so the second option, and our calculator will be a single view application. So the first one, right? Let's call it calculator. You can use whatever name you want. PVC. Organization identifier, right? That's your ID. It is used later on to create identifiers for your applications. We'll be working with Swift. About unit tests and UI tests, we'll be talking about them on some other occasion. So, well, we can leave them as part of the project, but you can remove them as well. Not a problem. The location of our project, desktop is fine in this case. So here we are. And I see I will have to move things around because you don't see the top of my screen. Now. Okay, so we'll start with creating the UI. And this UI will be very simple. So first, I'm opening the storyboard, main.storyboard. Remember that there are two of them, two storyboards in your project. One is the launch screen, and one is the main storyboard, and we want to work with main storyboard, all right? I'll hide the structure of the project. You know what, I will make my screen smaller so I can see everything. Okay, that's more or less what you can see. Let's make sure that we can see something on this screen. Here we are. All right, that's my application. I'm working with iPhone 8. So you can change the device in here, right? You can pick different devices. So what do we need? We'll need a label. And that will be our output. We can make it big enough so we can read the numbers. And we have to set it up as a screen of our calculator, right? So first, the font should be bigger, definitely. It should be it should start on the other side of the screen. And instead of label, let's use 0. And we can do other things later on in terms of formatting. So we can also change the font size, font itself if you want, right? And do anything else. But right now, that would be enough. Other things that we'll need are buttons, right? And we'll need few buttons. How many? Well, I would say 5 rows, 4 columns. And then we'll remove whatever is not needed, right? So let's take a button. Let's add it somewhere here. Let's make it square. Something like that. Maybe let's change the background color so we can see where the button really is. Background. Here. I like crayons. I'll make my buttons mercury gray. With black text. It will be a digit, right? So let's put there a digit. We can see how big this digit can be. Something like that. Now I can use Command and D to replicate this button. Command and D. Sorry? I didn't hear your question. Something like that, right? Now we can select all of them and replicate the whole row. If you want to play a little bit more with this design, right, we can do some dark background. We can change the color of the font to something lighter. We can change colors on the buttons as well. Right. Talking about buttons, what do we need? We need a clear button, and that will be the one in the top left corner. And then we need some digits. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Sorry? Division, multiplication, subtraction, and addition, and the equal signs, right? We can leave right now other buttons empty. We can decide what to do with them later. For those buttons here, the functional buttons, I will change the background color to orange. And I will change the cancel button to salmon. Why not? Don't laugh.
I know it's because every time I try to change the numbers, it goes 25%.
I think I will move my buttons down and make my label bigger. Okay. The next thing that I want to do, I want to set tags on my buttons. If you take a look at the attribute inspector, you scroll it down, you have the view section, and in the view section, you have tag. It's a number, it's a numerical value. What I want to do, I want to set for each numerical key, I want to set a tag that will be equal to the label, right? So for 0, it will be 0. For 1, it will be 1, and so on. All right, for 2, it's 2. Three. Why I'm doing this? I'm doing this because tag will help me recognize the button that I'm pressing. It will give me the number right away, right? Because what I can do right now, I have all the buttons set on my screen, right? So, sorry, what I can do, I can create handlers for those buttons, right? And when I create handlers, I can create handler for each of them, right? So 0 will have one, 1 will have another one, and so on. But then I have lots of repetition in terms of the code. My code kind of bloated, right? I can have one handler for all the numerical buttons. Because when you think about it, they all do the same thing. They add digit to the display, right? So the action that this button is doing is always the same. I will have a similar approach to other buttons, and I will add tags to actions as well, because then I will be able to recognize what is the action, right? So it's 9, cancel will be 10, division will be 11, multiplication will be 12, 13 for subtraction, 14 for the sum, and equals will be 15. So what's the next step? The next step will be switching to the assistant editor. So I want to work with the code. Let me quickly change the size of this font. So before I start creating the outlets and handlers, first what I want to do, I want to create few variables in my class. All right. So what I did, I clicked on the yellow bubble, right, the view controller, and then two rings, meaning the assistant editor. So I have a storyboard in one panel and my code in the other panel. I have to define few variables. I need to remember what is the number on the screen. And it will be double. And we'll start with 0. Another variable, previous number, same thing, double and 0. Performing math, this is a flag. This is Boolean, set initially to false, and will tell me if the next thing that I'm doing is doing the calculation or not. And the last variable that I'm adding, operation, and this will be an integer, and it will be equal 0 in the beginning. Then I will have one outlet, one reference, and this reference will be to the label. So I'm dragging my label to the code, right-click and drag. I want to create outlet, and this outlet will be called output. Right, this is the reference to the label. Now we are ready to create function for our numerical numbers, numerical buttons, right? So I will drag one of them, let's say 1, to my code. I want to create action, and this action will be called numbers. I want to get a reference to the sender, to the button. I'm reacting to touch up inside event, and I'm ready to implement my function. Yeah, you drag, let it go, you change to action, and then you say what is the name of the action, and you can change also the type of the parameter to button. Okay. This one. So when I'm pressing those buttons, I will have two states. I'm either typing and there is a number on the screen, I'm just adding new digits, or I did press some other button, like the operation button, and this is the first digit that should appear, right? So I will have if statement, if performing math, or else. Let's start with else. With else, it means that there are some digits on the screen and I'm adding new digits, right? So, sorry, output dot text should be equal to output dot text plus need to turn a digit into a string and will be sender dot tag. And then we have to update our number on screen, so the numerical value that we remember, and it will be equal to double, not label, but output dot text, exclamation mark and exclamation mark. So here I'm adding digits. So if I have, if this is a new digit from the new number, right, the first digit from the new number, then I have to clean the output, right? So it will be output dot text is equal to this. Bless you. And we have to make sure that we remember the number on the screen correctly, right? So the next thing also goes there. Right, so output text is equal to the tag, that's the new digit, and the number on the screen is equal to what we are showing. And the last thing that we have to do, performing math, is equal to false. Let's see if this code is working before we move to the next thing. It's starting. So we attach this handler to number 1. Here it is. All right, so it's working. Other buttons are not working yet. Let's add a magic touch, and let's make other numerical buttons to work. How? I can do exactly the same action. I can drag them, but in this case, I want to drag them to my function numbers. You see how the whole function highlights? That's what you want to see. And you let it go. Drag, drag.
Does it work if you select multiple ones at once?
It should work. Right? Have the same action attached to each of them. Let's run and let's see. I would add one more condition here, not only if performing math, but also or number on screen equal to 0, right? If it's equal to 0 and I'm pressing any other number, then it should be replaced. Right? You don't need this leading 0. Let's see if that will work. Let's add another simple action. Action that is very simple is clear. Let's add action clear. In this case, that's the only button that will be using it, so we really don't care about the parameter. What is our clear action? Clear action should set the output text to be equal 0, right? Number on screen should be equal 0. Previous number should be 0. Operation should be 0. Anything else? Oh, and performing math should be equal to false. That's the clear action. Let's see. It does work. Our next step is creating action for the operations, for the operational buttons. Let's create action that will be called buttons. Again, we want to get a UI button. Here it is. Let's make sure that it's connected to all the buttons. Yes. Now we'll use a switch statement, switch case. And we'll test the sender tag. It can be 11. If it's 11, then we'll do the division. If it's 12, multiplication. $13 was subtraction, if I'm not mistaken. Let me check. Yes. $14 add, and 15 equals. To make it a little bit more interesting, let's add nested functions for each operation. Division A int double, not int, double, and B double, and we'll return double. Return A divided by B. Multiplication, same. We return double. And then we'll have sum with a plus and subtraction with a minus. All right, so I have a local local functions. And I will call those functions in a second. Because if we are pressing just the operation, what we want to do, we want to show what is going on, right? We want to show the operation on the screen, right? So we'll have output dot text equals, in this case, it's a division. Multiplication, subtraction, and plus. Actually, we'll serve equals the last option separately. In each of those cases, what we have to do, we have to set the proper operation, right? So operation will be equal to the tag of the button, and we have to say that we are performing math, right? If you look at this case statement, can we simplify this code? What is this? Exactly. So what we could do, instead of writing this switch statement, we could say simply output dot text is equal to sender dot title label dot what dot text. This is label, this is button. That's why I have to get the label that is inside the button. Right, and then other things that I have to do, operation is equal to sender dot tag, and performing math is equal to true. But I will do this only if the sender tag is not equal to 15. Yes, is not equal 15. Because if it's 15, it means that it's an equal sign. And if it's equal sign, then it means that we have to perform the operations, right? So we'll have our case. Switch sender dot tag case. We'll have 11. And in this case, we want to avoid the case statements, right? If it's 11, then it means it's a division. So our output dot text will be equal to the result of our division, right? And division is between the previous number, right? Previous number and number on screen. It's 12 means that it's a multiplication. 13 is a subtraction. And 14 is addition. Are we correct? Sum. It's complaining that there is no default. One thing that I didn't do and it will bite me in a second, is that I didn't, in this case, when in this if statement, I didn't store the number from the screen, right? I should say that the previous number is equal to double output dot text. So you have to remember what was on the screen before I executed the action, right? Sorry? Where are we using it? Oh, sorry. I should use it here. This should be operation. No, it does. Because if I will use here the sender tag, it will be always equals, right? Because this is triggered by equals. So thank you. Good catch. Let's test. Seems like it's working. Now, if you look at the behavior of this calculator, right? Plus 3 equals. If I start tapping numbers right now, it allows me to do that, right? Adds numbers to the result, not necessarily the behavior that you want to have. How would you resolve that? How would you change this behavior? So when I first, maybe another question. If I have that, right, I have my result. What should be the behavior of the calculator when I press some other number? Sorry? That's my guess. So what do I need to change? Take a look at your code and tell me what should I change to fix this. Sorry? Maybe we need to add something. Definitely we need to modify the function numbers, right? But the question is how, right? What do I need to? But then we'll forget everything, right? Well, we could, but we need to recognize the situation when, right? So how can we do that? What are we doing? We are fixing this, right? I have performed the operation and I don't want those numbers to appear on the screen. I mean, I want them to appear, but I want it to clear the display first and then show the numbers. So what we can do, right, we can somehow signalize that we did the operation, right? Let's try to do it. So I will have a new variable, right? Done. Will be set to false in the beginning, right? I will change this in here, right? In here, when I do the operation, I will say done equals true. And then in numbers, I would say that I'm performing math, or number on screen is 0, or done. Let's see if it's that gonna work. Seems that it's working. Okay, another task. I show the results as doubles, right, with a dot. But the input that I can give right now is an integer. Let's change this. Where do we start? What do you think?
But you have to be careful when you divide, because when you divide it, it can be but the other condition is.
You know what? Actually, what helps us here is that this this platform handles division by 0 in a smart way. Because what I can do this, and it tells me that it's infinity, right? And I can do anything I want with the infinity; it will stay infinity. So it's a good output, right? At least one error that is handled automatically without raising an exception. I like it, right? But what I want to do, I want to add, let's say here, I want to add a dot. To to make our life easier, we'll create a separate action for this button, comma, the action behind the button is fairly simple, right? So what we need to do the same thing that we do, where is it? The same thing that we do with in here, right? Comma. You can call it dot if you want. Right? I want to add a dot to the number. But it's not that simple, right? There are some rules that I have to follow. Well, first, I should add it, right? What's the problem? But I should have only one dot, right? So again, I need to remember that there is a dot, right? So we'll have a variable has dot. If not, has dot, then we'll add a dot, and has dot will be set to true. Let's see it right now. I cannot add more than one dot. Seems to be working. But I forgot to reset the setting when I'm doing clear. Right? Has dot equals to false. I can do the same thing also in this section when I'm performing math, or is the first digit on the screen, or when I'm done, I also should say has dot equals false. So it's working. Sorry? What if we start with a dot? Wait. Dot. Well, we have to fix that. If we start with a dot, we are in here, right? So we can perform math. The number can be 0. We can be done. So this 2 should be combined with and not as dot, if I'm not mistaken. Sorry? Mm-hmm. Number? Hmm? How did I make what? Infinity? Right, if you try to leave something that is not a number at some point, it will also tell you that there is a problem. So it's working in a sense that it's not crashing the application, but it's giving you the correct results, right? You can use digits, you can use comma. Now what you can do, you have 2 more spots here. You can add other operators. You can add percentage, you can add modulo, you can add exponent, your choice. Right? Use these 2 buttons to add 2 new actions. And you can either add 2 new numbers, right, and use the numbers function, or you can create your own action for these 2 buttons and implement the idea there, right? So your choice. I will stop the recording right now and let you work on this as your exercise.